Ethan Moore wasn't used to surprises. As the CEO of a Fortune 500 tech company in London, his life ran on schedules, protocols, and passwords, especially passwords. That's why, when he returned early from a cancelled board meeting and heard the faint clicking of his office keyboard, his brow furrowed. No one was supposed to be home. Quietly stepping in, he froze. There, sitting nervously at his desk, was his housemaid, Anna. A quiet, soft-spoken woman who usually avoided eye contact, now completely absorbed in something on his screen. She didn't notice him at first. Her fingers danced awkwardly over the keyboard, backspacing often, clearly trying to write something. "Anna?" he asked, his voice a mix of confusion and anger. She jumped, nearly knocking over the monitor. I'm so sorry, sir," she stammered, eyes wide. The computer was open. "I just needed a few minutes." "Why?" "To snoop through my files," he snapped. "No. I was applying," she hesitated, swallowing her pride. "I was applying for an online programming course. My brother's been sick. I need a better job." Ethan looked at the screen. No company files, just an unfinished application and lines of beginner's code. Python. The real kind, not the kind he usually dealt with in boardrooms. He blinked. And in that moment, something shifted. It wasn't just the Maid on his computer. It was a hidden dream on a borrowed screen. He didn't know it yet, but Anna had just written the first line of code that would rewrite both of their lives. Ethan stared at the screen again, then at Anna. Her hands trembled as she reached to close the browser. "I'll leave right away," she whispered, blinking back tears. "I just needed a chance." But Ethan didn't tell her to leave. He pulled out the chair beside her and sat down. "Where did you learn this?" he asked, scrolling through her code. Anna hesitated. "Online tutorials. At night, after cleaning. I borrow a neighbor's Wi-Fi." Ethan looked closer. Her syntax was raw, but the logic? It was impressive for someone self-taught and without a computer of her own. "You're writing a chatbot?" he asked, eyebrows raised. She nodded quickly. "It's for hospital front desks, basic questions, symptom sorting. I thought maybe it could help someone like my brother." Ethan was quiet. For years, he'd hired consultants and engineers, chasing innovation. And yet, here sat a woman with zero formal education, building something real in the dark hours between scrubbing floors. "I didn't mean to overstep," Anna added quickly. I want to do more with my life." Something stirred in him. He remembered being young, broke, and hungry to prove himself. No connections. No chances. Only one teacher who once said, "I see something in you." Ethan stood. "You're not fired," he said, surprising them both. "But you are late." Anna's eyes widened. "Late?" "For your interview," he smiled. "You're coming with me to the office tomorrow. Let's see what HR thinks about a maid who builds hospital AI after midnight." For the first time since she'd entered his home, Anna smiled, not as a maid, but as a woman with purpose. And as Ethan left the room, he realized. Sometimes talent doesn't knock. It just quietly logs in. The next morning, Anna stood outside the towering glass headquarters of Moore Tech, dressed in her only clean blouse and a borrowed pair of black flats. Her hands trembled more than when she was caught at the computer. Inside, Ethan greeted her with a reassuring nod. "Relax," he said. "They don't know your title. Just your talent." He led her into a sleek conference room where two senior developers waited. They looked puzzled when Ethan said, "Meet Anna. She'll walk you through her chatbot prototype." Anna blinked in disbelief, but somehow, her fear melted the moment she started explaining. The stutters stopped. Her hands stopped shaking. She spoke about patient triage, natural language processing, and how hospitals in rural areas lacked digital help. At first, the developers exchanged skeptical glances. But as she brought up efficiency stats, potential integrations, and even suggested a solution for server strain in low-income clinics, those glances turned into nods. One developer leaned forward, clearly impressed. "You built this, on your own?" Anna nodded shyly. "I only got to practice on borrowed devices. Never owned a real computer." By the end of the session, HR had been called in. Ethan sat silently, watching the room shift. For once, it wasn't about degrees or polished resumes. It was about someone who refused to give up. As Anna stepped out into the hallway afterward, Ethan followed. "They loved you," he said. "How do you feel?" "Like I just woke up from a dream I didn't dare have." He handed her a key. "Anna, your coding journey starts now. I got you a laptop. And a mentor." Anna clutched the key like it was gold. For the first time, her story was being rewritten, not as a maid, but as a creator, a builder. And it had only just begun. Weeks passed. Anna no longer arrived at Mortec through the back door as someone in uniform. She walked through the front, badged, welcomed, and curious-eyed. Every morning, she sat in the intern corner of the innovation lab. But it was clear, she didn't think like an intern. She didn't just follow instructions, she asked why, what if, and what next. She stayed late, often the last to leave, her eyes glowing behind borrowed glasses. Her AI chatbot, nicknamed Echo, had been given an internal pilot run at 2 clinics Mortec partnered with. Early feedback was stunning: shorter wait times, clearer symptom sorting, and grateful staff. Then one stormy Thursday, something happened. The company's big quarterly showcase was hours away. Ethan was set to present new AI tools to shareholders and the press. But the lead engineer, scheduled to demo a feature, fell ill. Panic rippled through the office. Anna, unnoticed in the background, stepped forward. "I can do it," she said softly. People turned. A few eyebrows raised. But Ethan nodded. And so, in a room filled with executives, investors, and reporters, Anna stood, wearing confidence instead of fear, and presented Echo. She spoke not just of lines of code, but of real lives. Her brother's misdiagnosed illness. Long wait times in clinics with 1 doctor and 40 patients. How Echo gave back minutes that could save lives. When she finished, there was silence. Then a standing ovation. Ethan watched from the wings, his eyes misty. Not with pride for his company, but with awe for a woman who once mopped his floors and now commanded a room of power suits with raw, undeniable purpose. In that moment, Anna wasn't just seen. She was heard. And nothing would ever be the same again. The following Monday, Anna walked into Mortec as more than just a rising star. She was now an official junior developer, with her name on a desk, a team assigned to her, and a feature article about her presentation circulating the industry. But she didn't let it go to her head. She still visited her brother every evening, still sent money back home to her mother, and still refused to call Ethan, sir. He was simply Ethan now, the man who had seen past status and into substance. One afternoon, as she reviewed updates to Echo's hospital interface, Ethan entered the lab with a quiet smile and a folder in his hand. "I want you to see this," he said, sliding the papers toward her. Anna flipped it open, and gasped. It was a grant proposal. A partnership between Mortec and a global health nonprofit, using Echo as a model to bring digital triage to 250 under-resourced clinics in rural areas across the US, Canada, and the UK. And the project lead, Ethan added, is you. Anna covered her mouth. Me? I'm just getting started. No, Ethan said gently, you started the day you dared to dream on a borrowed screen. Now it's time the world saw what I saw that day. Tears welled in her eyes. Not just because of the opportunity, but because someone believed. Not in her potential, but in her present. Outside, the rain had cleared. Sunlight flooded the glass walls of the lab as Anna stood and shook Ethan's hand, not as a maid and a CEO, but as two people who had changed each other's lives. Because sometimes, all it takes is one broken rule to rewrite every rule that follows. And Anna? She was just getting started.